Review podcast. This is going to be episode 6. Today with me, I have Warp Sonic. What's up? How you doing, man?
Hey,
So today's episode is definitely going to be Splitgate wise, since you are a Splitgate content creator, and also you've played tournaments. If I did my research correctly, you've played some tournaments, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've played
So
in a few.
as well as aspiring athlete, as your Twitter says.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, that's pretty much gonna be the main discussion here. I don't wanna lose any more time. So I wanna know, right? I wanna know because last time I talked about Splitgate on the podcast with Machiavelli, Splitgate 2 wasn't out yet. There was no playtest. Now we've had the chance
Yeah.
to play the playtest. So I wanna know how was your playthrough? How was it? Did you enjoy it? Did you find issues? Let us know.
I had a great time with it. Um, I think that there were obviously some initial issues, but as they said, they wanted to go big and wild with these early tests so that they can figure out what crazy idea works and what crazy idea doesn't, so that they're not um, so that they don't have to so that they can make the changes when they make changes once the game is out or it's close to being out. Those changes are smaller and they already have a good foundation, right? And I think
Yep.
there was a lot of a great foundation in the playtest, and they've been very receptive to feedback.
They
So
have.
I think, yeah,
Th-
so I think it's going to be, I think the game's going to be amazing.
Dude, I think that is the Splitgate classic of they're very communicative compared to other communities and FPS and just shooters in general. They communicate a lot. The devs, you can literally talk with them. I've had a lot of talks with the devs
Yeah.
itself, and this was way back. This is before I really even done anything for the game apart from playing it. And they were open to talk, open to hear criticism. So that's I feel like that's always great for a game. It's always a nice thing to
Yeah.
hear. It's always a nice thing to have. The playtest, I know there was things about sliding. I know people were talking about sliding a lot because could you slide in Spaghetti One? You couldn't slide. You couldn't slide. You could just
No, there
crouch. Yeah,
wasn't.
you could
Yeah, there wasn't sliding.
mantle. I know they added that at one point.
Yeah,
You could
they added
mantle.
that. They added that where it was. I liked the implementation of Mantle in Splitgate 1. How it didn't put your gun down or anything. It was just kind of
Yeah,
an extension of the jetpack ability. You get a little bit extra jetpack power, which was kind of funny because there were a lot of spots in Splitgate 1 where you just barely could not just jetpack places. So I think I was when they introduced that, I was a little bit concerned that being able to, suddenly reach those places might be a little bit too strong. It turned out to be totally fine. And I think that's a lot of the same thing with slide,
It-
with adding sliding, is that I think it was a map design thing, right? I think that sliding in Splitgate 2, honestly, I think it feels great, it works great, because these maps are Splitgate 2 maps, not Splitgate 1 maps. The I think if Splitgate 1 had sliding, I think it would have broken a lot of the map design. So having a fresh game with completely new maps, completely totally gives you makes it kind of a no-brainer to just add sliding in and then create the maps with that in mind.
I mean, for sure. And I think there was a conversation about sliding, obviously, and this is like a general conversation on just shooters in general, where sliding is good, sliding is bad, sliding makes the game too fast. But at least in my playtest of it, sliding felt very like natural and very good. The implementation was good. It's not like you don't feel like it breaks the game. The way you said it, where it would break Splitgate 1 if, let's say, if it was added there. It doesn't break the game. It's really part of the game. But the maps, though, I really like the Splitgate 2 maps, and I like the fact that there's certain areas and certain maps where you can kind of feel like it's a Splitgate 1 map really just revamped, but not to the point where they just copy pasted. Like they made a new game. It's really a
Mhm.
new version of it, but they really kept the source feeling of Splitgate. That's what I like the most. Um, Also, I don't know if you've tried that, and I wanted to know if anybody even tried that. But the Splitgate settings for portals in Splitgate 2, by default you had the auto third portal, I think it was called.
Oh, the smart portal
The smart, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
Splitgate 2 in the
yeah,
playtest.
and the playtest, and I turned it off because I was used to
Yeah,
playing with,
same.
yeah, I was used to play, but I wanted to find someone that didn't turn it off or that took the time to try it before, because I was like, at first I was playing with it and I didn't know, and it felt pretty good, and I was like, wait, this is actually for, I guess, especially for controller, because Splitgate is one of the few games where I actually played on a controller. So it felt really good, but I don't know if it would be the same for keyboard players in this case.
So are you? I mean, just to
Yeah,
ask clarifying questions. Are you a controller player usually in Splitgate, or
and
do
Splitgate, yeah,
you just kind of
Splitgate is
flex onto it?
no, no. Splitgate is one of the few games where I played controller. Most games I play keyboard, but Splitgate was at a time where I just when I started playing Splitgate, I was playing Fortnite, which I play on controller. One of, like I said, one of the only games where I play on
Oh,
controller, and
it,
so
it feels okay.
I
Sorry, we'll
I
continue.
played on keyboard at first. I think the moment I touched the game, and then there was a lot of talks about aim assist, which we will get into as
Oh
well.
yeah.
But there was a lot of talk about aim assist, and I played it on controller, and it felt pretty good. And obviously, the aim assist was insane. But apart from that, the game just felt pretty good. I like the fact that, on a controller you don't have mouse space issues. You just you know right stick. That's it. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of times where, especially if you just played like high sense, which I did, and you could kind of just rotate around by just keeping right stick, and you just portal, and then you can just rotate around the whole map.
Oh yeah. I think the people undersell like the ability to portal on controller, just because it's like in tack shooters, they always talk about crosshair placement. You can do that with portals as well. Like if you know your whole route, like even if it's like a chain of like 5 portals, maybe even more. If you know where you're going, you can place your crosshair ahead of time. Even keyboard and mouse players, at a high level do this as well. Like I will like when I'm routing on like in Splitgate 1 on Abyss,
Yeah,
I'll strategically like say I have to do a 180 to go through my portal. I'll specifically, instead of actually doing like a full 180 if my entry portal is behind me, I'll just rotate 90 degrees and then press one of my directional keys to the left or the right, and then I'll go through my portal sideways because I know that direction that I exit the other side of the portal is where the next one's going to be, and I shoot that, and then I don't even have to turn my camera. I can just go through the right, and then the next portal wall I need to hit is right in front of me. All sorts of stuff like that, that both keyboard, mouse, and controller at a high level both do to maximize the efficiency of their portaling. It is especially important on controller, uh, because
I
of
agree.
that limited turning speed.
Yeah,
But it's because of that strategy, it's really not it's not a huge gap like on like Splitgate races, like the race mode in Splitgate
yeah,
1. Like they're sometimes on the global top 10, sometimes there'd be controller players on those.
100%. I used it. So when I first started, obviously it was a harder time because you have to get used to the whole mechanic, and I encourage anyone that wants to play the game to actually play the game for a little bit before being like, oh, this is too hard or whatever. Because once you
Yeah.
understand the portal the mechs, once you understand um like how triple porting works, and the fact that you just need to have in mind which portal you have out, which portal you're going to, because once you understand that, I feel like it becomes really easy. Like to now it's just second nature, right? I hopped on Splitgate too, even though I hadn't played Splitgate in I think a year at least, and after 5 minutes, I just remembered, muscle memory, I guess, just came back, and I remembered exactly what I needed to do to just triple portal around the map. Because once you understand it, it becomes really easy to do, and becoming faster at it is just a question of practice. There was a controller player which was Vinopius, I think, which
Is he
and
controller?
he's on controller.
Really?
He's on
Wow.
controller, and his fucking portaling vids were insane.
Yeah.
They were literally insane. He was portaling so fast. At the time, I was like, okay, because I had great aim that I kind of transferred from just playing controller on other games to this game. But the portaling mech obviously took time, right? And you had people like him that had way more hours than me. That I would look at their vids and be like, okay, this is controller is not like it's not down bad. I don't need to go back to keyboard for this. I can just kind of keep it on this, because I felt like it was more the way I played Splitgate was really a chill way. So it just felt good to actually portal, no matter the input, no matter if I played
Yeah.
on controller or keyboard. It felt good for that, and I think that's why. And that's why I want to get into now. The Amos's debate is so hot, and
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
on Splitgate 1. I'll
Mhm.
let you go.
I just wanted to go back to you were talking about smart portaling. I wanted to circle back to that because I did have one thing to mention, which is for triple portaling, it is absolutely like a great idea. If triple portaling was the only thing that pros used, like portals for,
Yep.
then it would be immediately they'd all use it, right? But the thing is, there's also, you have to keep in mind escape portals. Like, let's say I have my like purple portal open over here, my yellow portal open over here, and maybe I'm fighting like right here, but I actually, the last one I exited was my yellow.
Yep.
So if I place, or I'm messing this up, but let's say that with smart portals, I'm trying to escape, and I'm automatically, like, the
Going.
smart portal has it set
Yeah.
to do the yellow next, but my purple portal is right next to me. And so then I try to smart portal out. So it places down my yellow portal and just doesn't get me far enough away, and I still die, right? There's also trying to set up like those long range angles that you'd see a lot of pros use, like with the billboards and stuff, to take peak shots. Like maybe they had a teammate on the zone, and so they, like, let's say you already have a portal on a position where you could use it to take one of those long range peaks, but it's because of smart portal, you end up placing that same color down that you want to keep up there and you want to look through, then that could be another issue. So stuff like that is why I think pros will want to stick with manual portaling. I think that smart portaling could have the potential on specifically like keyboard and mouse, if only if you can set both, and if you have enough buttons for that, right?
Yep. I see. I see. What you, I know there was part of that setting where you could by default when you had smart portal on, because I looked back at it after the fact, and I know that by default the smart portal would put that purple yellow purple yellow purple yellow, and it would keep the streak. But you could manually, with another button, you could manually make it switch. I think that's how it was, if I remember well. And so it would be, I guess, in those cases where you want to keep a certain portal, you could still use it. Because at first I thought the same thing, where, okay, well, if I don't want to do purple yellow and I want to do purple purple because I'm just trying to get a different peak, well, it's over. Like I'm just gonna ruin my portals. And I remember then after looking back at it, I was like, okay, yeah, it makes more sense that there was a button, another manual button, but I would have to double check that. But I'm pretty sure that's how it was.
Yeah,
So
there was a if you chose or if you could set your what button you wanted to use smart portals for, and then you could have a button to swap which end of the smart portal to place down next. The thing about that though is that depending upon how good your like memory is, like how well you remember what you previously did, you might have to actually like manually look down in the bottom right corner of your screen for that. And it is another button input. Whereas if you know, like maybe in the smart portal scenario, you know that you want to place down your purple portal and you know that it's on yellow. Uh, like if it's smart portal, then you have to press two buttons. If you have it on manual portals, you just press one, right? You just choose the correct one.
yep.
So I think that's a minor factor, but I do see that if you have enough buttons, which you probably won't on controller, but you might on keyboard and mouse, you could set both manual portals and smart portals um, so that you can usually when you're trying to escape, when you're trying to take peeks, when you're trying to do blocks, maybe. I know those are changing a lot in Splitgate 2 because there's the like after 3 seconds, a portal becomes deletable by another portal. So now you're going to have to constantly portal block. But for any of those, you're probably going you're always going to want manual portals, but if you're trying to triple portal at maximum speed, then you do want smart portals. So if you have the space, and again, controller probably won't, but keyboard and mouse might for some players, depending upon how they like their controls. I could see that happening where they'll block, escape, peek with manual portals and triple with smart portals.
Yeah, and you touched up on the other topic I found really interesting about the playtest, which was the portal blocking differences, where you actually have that 3 second rule. And I didn't know obviously at first. I just kind of went in the playtest blindly, and I at one point I throw a portal by accident, or trying to see if I had enough space to throw my portal, and I realized I removed someone else's portal, and I was like, what just happened? And I thought it was maybe a character thing, and then I realized that it wasn't, and it was just like you can just remove people's portal if they're standing there for too long. And I think that's really cool. I think that makes, like, I guess the campiness of portal blocking, it kind of evades it without completely removing the tech, because I think it is pretty important to be able to portal block.
Yeah, they mentioned this in the developer live stream, that they found that the EMP grenade system just wasn't fun. So they figured that even if it would definitely like shake up the meta a ton, they figured that just making portals delete other portals would be more straightforward, and it's more responsive because the EMP grenades had travel time, of course. So the sorry,
All good.
but
The
but they said that felt more. It's kind of like I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but Gabe Newell at one point said, "Fun is about reinforcement. It's when you do something, the world reacts, right?" And so shooting your portal gun and nothing happening because it's blocked isn't really fun. Throwing an EMP and having to wait for it to land isn't fun. So they just decided, let's overhaul that system. Of course, I think the 3 second invulnerability thing is definitely like a good thing because it can just happen too quickly. Of course, they didn't really communicate that immediately. So, when I got in the playtest, I had seen that you could delete other portals because I'd watched the previous day of live streaming and stuff, which I didn't get into because dang it. But I'm small. I'll admit that I'm
No, but I mean,
haven't
it happens with
I
time, dude.
haven't
It happens with time.
yeah, I haven't built up much yet, but I want it in that playtest, bro. Anyway, uh, they hadn't really been super clear on how the portal invulnerability works,
Yep.
and they said they're going to make it more visually communicated. Like they're going to make it obvious that a portal is not yet able to be over, like placed over.
Yeah.
Um, so that wasn't really clear to me. So it felt like, why is this so inconsistent? I figured, if it's not a bug, if it's a bug, it'll be fixed. If it's design decision, then someone will figure it like out the logic behind it at some point, or they'll tell us. And they did eventually in um, another little uh, live.
Yeah, one of the live
What
streams. Yeah,
it's
one
the
of the live
Discord
streams.
thing where you do
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
live
I don't know
room
how to
or
call those
whatever.
either.
Yeah.
The
Um,
Discord dev talks, I guess, something like that.
yeah, I
Uh,
mean that works. That's basically what it was. And so I think that it's definitely, it's much more responsive, which is the most important. That's the basic element of fun in a video game. So I think that's a great I think it's a good decision overall. We'll have to see how does this balance in a competitive setting, and maybe does it need some adjustments because of that. But I'm super excited for just their whole philosophy of it needs to it needs to feel responsive. It needs to feel like everything you do has a like every action has a reaction basically.
I mean, yeah, and they so far, at least for my playtest, they did that correctly. Uh, I realized as well. We kind of we went into the technical side, but we kind of skipped the main the main talk, which is definitely the class systems, because that is completely different. I was very skeptical at first because I was like, oh, they're turning this to another hero shooter. It's over. And because Splitgate wasn't that at all. Obviously, you had roles within whenever you played in the competitive settings where, someone was fragging or on the hill or blah, blah, blah. But
Mm-hmm.
it was never a real, class system. Um, I don't know what you thought about the classes. Do you think one of the classes is maybe better or something needs to be fixed in those regards?
To clarify about what you said about like competing in Splitgate 1, there was like a you could describe a player's tendencies and stuff, but every player had to be flexible because ultimately, there wasn't any actual mechanical like difference in what players what abilities players had. So if you wanted to be the best team, you had every single player on your team had to be able to play every role,
Yeah.
which is I don't think there's definitely nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's a I don't think it's all I also don't think it's necessary though. Like I'm not one of those people who thinks every if it doesn't have if we don't all spawn with the same weapon and the same equipment, then the game sucks, right? I
No,
think that's pretty
definitely
stupid,
not.
and that's one of the unfortunate things, especially like on Reddit, that like it feels like the Splitgate subreddit is just full of um, just Halo people, like people, and so um, and ultimately, like if there's one studio I would trust to balance like this kind of like faction and loadout system, it would be 1047. Like they care deeply about that kind of stuff. But the factions, I felt like they were pretty good. I felt like there were some unfortunate uh, things with specifically getting playing against a Sabrask with a plow was really annoying. But keep in mind the only people who I actually can remember playing against who annoyed me, who were Sabrasks running plow, they were pro players. So it might just be for one thing, you have to keep in mind that also they're just better than me.
Yeah.
So maybe the fact that that's what they were choosing is a little bit a little bit concerning, but uh, yeah, I think
Going
the
with what's strong, I guess.
yeah, I think maybe we don't want like a full shotgun meta, but I'd love to see all the weapons being used at the top level. Um,
I mean, it's always
uh,
hard because
yeah,
any game, like, no, literally, no matter the game, anyone that tried to kind of have that, obviously, there's always going to be some weapons that are just better than others. There's going to be some weapons that don't
yeah,
deliver as much, and that's, to me, that's completely fine. That's just how a game works. You really most likely won't be able to um make a game where every single weapon has the exact same uh like scale, I guess, in terms of their ability to just have you win the game. Some weapons are going to be better, but 1047 definitely, as you said, is not a studio that I think is going to make things that are completely busted. That
yeah.
that power, I ran it a few times. I'm not going to lie, but it was fun. The funny thing that I found was the double shotgun um
The
tech
charger,
with I was it the charger, it was
the
I just
it's
know you
there
could
were
run
two
two,
shotguns.
but you could run two shotguns and like double
Oh,
pump.
like you could pick
Yeah,
up someone else's plow
you
as
could
well. Okay, yeah.
you could, like, if somebody else was running plow, you could pick up their plow and literally double pump, like OG Fortnite style of double pumping, which is
Uh
crazy.
yeah, I
And
don't I don't mind. Oh, sorry.
no, I was about to say I ran it a few times and it was hilarious. I think I seen after running it, I went into whose stream was it? Maybe it was maybe K-Jules or something, and I seen him run it as well. I don't know if it's K-Jules or no, I think it was like Swooty. And I seen him as well run it, and I was like, this is so funny. People were like, okay, yeah, this is definitely gonna get nerfed, and I'm assuming it's gonna get nerfed, probably patch. You probably just won't be able to
Yeah.
double pump like that.
I think that they'll keep it. I think that as a reward for if you want to spend the time swapping out your weapons, like pulling out your secondary and then swapping it for someone else's primary, I think that's fine. And I think that the plow may have been a bit too strong, but I'm not the expert. I never actually ran it because I was playing arrows for almost the entire playtest. And the thing I'll say about balance and stuff is you're never going to have perfect balance. So balance in favor of fun, right? Like, what was everybody automatically gravitating towards in the playtest? They were gravitating towards arrows. Because it's the fun, it's the movement faction. They've got a heal. They've got these punchy, um, like kind of sporty feeling weapons. So if you're going to, like it's okay if you don't have perfect, for any game, it's okay if you don't have perfect balance. Just try to make the things that people like playing strong, right?
Yep.
Um, like Valorant had a jet meta for a really long time, which was fine because people really like playing Jet. It did create the Jet insta-lock kind of issue, but at least they weren't playing a weak character, right? At least people,
I mean,
the popular characters
how,
aren't weak.
how good is having something too strong? It's fun for a little, obviously, and on a competitive side, it can like break entire esports for those patches.
Yeah.
Usually I say I think the way kind of Fortnite does it, where they have a set of weapons and things within the casual or standard game mode, and then they have something else within the ranked slash competitive game mode. I think that's something any game could adopt. And if they want to have a little bit of crazier things going on for casual players, then they can have that in the standard game
Mhm.
modes, and they can have the more balanced approach within the competitive game modes, so that
Yeah.
it's not a mess, and both communities are satisfied in that sense.
Yeah. I think for one thing, when I say like balance in favor of fun, right, I'm also talking about like high skill, right? Like balance in favor, because for me those are mostly synonymous. Like it's um like fun is responsive and high skill. Those are the
Yep.
two main main factors of fun. So if you make the if the responsive and high skill stuff is the stuff that is more powerful and is more meta, then I I'm not going to complain because I'm probably already choosing those options because they're fun. Um,
And
so
I was just about to say I wanted to touch up on kind of out of the playtest itself, but on Splitgate as a whole a little bit, because obviously you have a content side to this, and you've made videos as far as 3 years back, if I remember well, on the game. So this was very early Splitgate. This is before season 0.
yeah,
This is pre
like
alpha stuff or pre beta. I mean, um, gameplay. What do you think about what's possible for content creation within Splitgate, and like what the
yeah.
potential is there?
I think my first video that I ever made about Splitgate may have been back in like 2020. I did like delist some of the ones from like Splitgate Legacy just because they were I was like so young back then, and honestly my gameplay was pretty bad. Um, but uh you were asking about like content
Yeah,
potential,
yeah,
like
yeah. I
what.
was saying just in general, what do you think about the content potentials, the like the ability, just the ability to be a content creator, but on Splitgate itself, right? Because if I just to give you an idea, if I think of something another game like Apex or maybe Fortnite or something like that, where you have those games where the content potential I think is really great. You have a lot of content that the game is dropping to help content creators, and you have just a lot of whether it's challenges or ideas that you can come up with. So that's more my questions. Do you think there's enough stuff in Splitgate to either become or want to become a content creator?
um that's a very good question. And I think that battle royale games like have that whole, like you can tell a whole story
Yeah.
through a single just like through a single match, right? Um I think that if you look at like the kind of content that's popular in like Valorant and stuff, I think that's a pretty good um model for what could be possible in Splitgate 2, specifically like, when the game is, you know, got some amount of popularity again.
Yep.
Uh, there's the content that's like, um, there are the montages. Some of those get, big views, but that those are a little bit more of a lottery. Um, Educational content on Valorant is like guaranteed views, basically, in my opinion. And also, if you're a pro player in Valorant, you automatically get views. But that's probably because the esports scene for Valorant is huge. Everybody knows those players,
Yeah.
so that takes some time, and it would take a lot of popularity for that to come to like uh, that kind of viability of that content to come to Splitgate 2. I think the other kind is like if you, I think could get some viewership is especially at the start is if you played like if you matched with or against a popular streamer, you can just say like,
Yeah. 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 Playing with
like
Shroud or something
let's
like
say
that.
you played against, like I was watching or I checked the channel of Suppress, the
Yeah.
Splitgate Pro. He was, the huge trash talker. I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta love that guy. I don't know.
I played with him a few times. Fun times. Always fun times.
I'm yeah. For me, um, I wouldn't want to team with him until I'm very confident, because like till I've like gotten to a higher level, because he's very vocal when he sees something he doesn't like, right? So you gotta make sure that you can be up to his expectations, and I think that's something that some other pros have told me, is that he might uh, may be a little bit like harsh, and I think that sometimes that's what you need, right, to understand what you need to do better.
Most
But
definitely. I,
but anyway, like I looked at him, and like he's made like videos since Splitgate kind of fell off about other games. Like usually it's like the new game that's come out, like the finals or Marvel Rivals, and you see like I think he had pretty good views on a video where he said
yep.
like it was like something like stunning Sinatra with my incredible aim or something like that on insert new popular game. Uh,
I'm
and
curious. I'm just checking. You can keep talking. I'm just checking.
um, but yeah, I think stuff like that, especially initially, will that will get viewership at the start, just because you can all like if you can clickbait with the name of a popular streamer. I think that's a good way to get some eyeballs on you. But I think the most stable at the start, especially like with Splitgate 1, like all the educational content was pretty like beginner level. Like if you wanted to understand the kind of concepts that pro players understand, you had to actually talk to them, right? Or like
It's a smaller
read like a
scene.
Google Doc. Yeah. And
It's
that's because it never took off too much. Um, but I think part of that is because Splitgate 1 went like this and then like kind of just went like that. I think that Splitgate 2 will start like here and build up. Like it'll have a respectable audience at the start. I don't think it'll be as big of an explosion as Splitgate 1 had when the beta drops on, and it became available on console. But because I think a lot of people will just be like, oh, it's Splitgate again, which in reality it's very different, but they're going to see the name and be like, I feel like I already understood that, and then it'll get more popular through just word of mouth
I
after that, and it'll build up.
I
And so I
hope
think that gives the opportunity, whereas Splitgate 1 just exploded at the very start. And so like, a bunch of people put out these beginners guides, and then suddenly there was no incentive anymore to make videos about it. I think Splitgate 2, it will you'll have at the start you'll have some people put out these beginners guides, but then the incentive to make educational, like in Valorant, honestly, the incentive to make like this like educational content will actually go up, and that will mean that we'll get like there'll be a kind of an audience for these like advanced guides videos and talking about all these specific parts of learning how to play the game at the highest level.
yeah. And I was about to say, especially on what you said regarding like how you think Spaghetti is gonna go. I hope it starts at that bottom line and goes up the way you say it, than the way it did with Spaghetti 1, because games nowadays, a lot of games are just, they're blowing up at the start, in my opinion, too early. And that makes it that the game can't actually nurture a real and how do you call it, invested player base. And people are kind
Mm-hmm.
of just coming there for the hype. And the problem about that obviously is that when people just come there for the hype, the moment the hype starts dying down, they're leaving, right? If you
Yeah.
have people that are actually nurturing and investing in a certain way in the game, getting better at the game, understanding the game better, and slowly being like, yo, this game is really nice, you should try it. And this kind of the way it goes up, this is how you build player bases, and you actually
Hmm.
build good player bases. And then if there
Yeah.
is a bigger hype after that, at least there's a player base that people can kind of fall back on to either learn the game, to learn how to play, to learn, like, there's a lot of things that are great when it comes to having a player base that is active, that is um kind of that invites people to be a part of the community. Splitgate was like that, honestly, because it was one of the communities where it was very easy to kind of get into it. And like for example, pugs, you could kind of just go and play pugs. You didn't have to be anyone to play pugs. You could just go and play
Yeah.
pugs. And so in that point, you're playing with, top tier players. Obviously, you probably had to have some type of skill level to get there. But
Yeah.
most of the time, if you were, gold or something, you don't want to play with these guys anyways because they'll just ruin your game.
Yeah. You should like probably like plat or diamond, like in the like at the start, like when Splitgate really blew up. Like if you got to like high plat to diamond rank, that's when like you probably wanted to start trying like playing pickup games, pugs, and um just trying to learn from them. And then when you go back to ranked, it would just feel so easy, and you'd
Oh,
rank
it,
up easily.
it definitely was because I remember, I remember I peaked at 34. If I remember well, yeah, I never remember if it's 34 to 36 or something. Anyways, 30 something on the leaderboard when I was playing,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, no, it was pretty good. And I remember, I was maybe in the hundreds or something, hundred and something, and when I peaked is after I started playing pugs and going back to rank. And playing pugs, you're literally playing with the actual like top 30 players in the whole game, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
And not every game, obviously, but you always have at least one or two of them that are truthfully just way better than most players. And there's a lot to learn from them, and there's a lot that they can kind of teach you without even necessarily just watching them or just playing with them. There's things you learn. The fact that you're also in call helps because there's call outs that you can learn, or there's certain things that maybe you wouldn't think of, like going to certain peaks where you realize that, oh, he's there and he's grabbing like 2-3 kills here. And it's like, oh well, when I'm in my rank game, I'm gonna go and peek there and grab my 2-3 kills. And that definitely made the difference. So I feel like that was great. It's just a great community, but the hype was too much. Like when it blew up like this. So like it just went this
Mhm.
and here, and then it just fell. It just fell because
Yeah.
most players aren't really invested. They're just like, okay, this is a hype game, this is the game of the moment, and then they just leave.
Yeah, and the replayability of Splitgate 1 was fairly low because
Yeah,
you just like they'd add variety with different casual game modes and stuff, but there wasn't a lot of um there wasn't too much variety just within what like your traditional gameplay, right? Like you could choose to play snipers and then oh look it's you're playing with snipers. You could but like you could choose to play zombies and like or it was like
there's
contamination. It's like
yeah,
Halo
yeah,
infection,
yeah.
not really like Call of Duty zombies. But you could choose to play um contamination, and then you're playing against the um you're play you've got these they introduce these asymmetrical game types and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But ultimately, it's like all mechanically very similar because all of the guns are meant to operate in that same uh, kind of shooter style, and you always had just a lot of things were the same between those, and it didn't really give you opportunities to like. There weren't varieties of strategies, right? Like in Splitgate 2, you've got you can with choosing different loadouts and stuff, and choosing different factions, you get that much replayability because once you start getting the hang of one faction, you can try another faction.
Yep.
So that I think is going to add a lot. And Cardinal, the CEO, said in some interviews he was like, what what they found was people would would try the game, play it for like a few weeks, and then get bored because it was just very repetitive. So I think that Splitgate 2 will help with that replayability. Um, and that's really the main thing that will keep people
Like playing.
playing,
Yeah.
and it gives them more to explore. And from there, I think that'll give them enough replayability uh, to be able to. Sorry, I'm kind of losing
You're
my train of
good.
thought.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think you get the idea.
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the main thing is just that the replayability is obviously going to be better, because of the amount of things that that you'll be able to do truthfully.
Yeah,
And
and oh, you
no, I was about
continue.
to say, and this is obviously doing it while keeping the core, the core gameplay
Hmm.
of the game. Um, I was just about to say, honestly, it's a great sequel. It really is a great sequel. I didn't know if it was going to be or not, but it's looking like it's a great sequel to the game that I guess we all once loved.
Yeah. I'd say the other thing is this time they're gonna have a lot less technical debt, right? Like, think about how long the 1047 took to just fix, like, to just get more servers, right? And that stuff, like, it's not their fault. Like, that actually takes time. Uh, so they had this whole, like, people couldn't get into the game while it was blowing up the most, and then it
We
started
remember.
to it started to like the interest started to wane, and they were still busy with just hiring enough people to handle this. Like, holy shit, we are like suddenly we're one of the like we just suddenly became one of the biggest games momentarily, and we're like 15 people. um so they had to just like start hiring, and so that all took a lot of time, which meant they couldn't give us all the new content to keep players engaged. And so that's the other side of things. This time, they know what they're doing. They've scaled up the studio. They're on Unreal Engine 5, which what we've seen so far of it looks unbelievable. Just the engine itself, and the game really feels great. It doesn't have like any technical issues. Like, the final nail in the coffin for Splitgate 1 was when Season 2 came out and consoles wouldn't stop crashing.
Oh my god,
That's when
I
that's
heard
when
about it.
yeah, that's when things really went downhill, was where it was just like, wow, this is the like just the player base has collapsed, was when console came out, or sorry, Season 2 released,
Yeah.
and console players just couldn't play the game, and 1047 tried to fix it repeatedly, but it was they just couldn't, like, with each patch,
Yeah.
like the problem would still be there. And consoles still have crashing issues, by the way, which is crazy.
that
um
that's kind of nuts.
yeah, so like sometimes when there's just like there's still a few console players who will play pickup games, and sometimes it'll be like, the console player crashed. We gotta set this all back up and wait for him. But uh, sorry, this is so, like, because it was like developed by 4 people initially, that foundation, and so much time had spent over that, and they'd scaled up since then. They didn't really know, they couldn't diagnose the issues easily and fix them. So that's something that with Splitgate 2 is going to be a lot better, because they hired everyone, developed the game on a great engine, and they know how it works.
I I think that like that definitely sums it up.
Yeah, so they'll be able to, they'll basically, they won't have nearly as many concerns about fixing bugs when the game launches. They won't be on like they won't be on like disaster mode immediately, like we saw with something like Counter-Strike 2, or PUBG had the same issue.
Yep.
Although PUBG managed to survive. Um, when Splitgate 2 launches, a big majority of their work can go into just new features and keeping players engaged.
I think they have everything at this point that it takes from uh like a core player base that really wants the game to succeed to people that are genuinely just waiting to play it because they'll think it'll be a fun time. And the main idea, which is great, the portal mechanics that makes which have so much, truthfully, so much potential as well. In general, I just think it can be one of the greatest release in gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the pro players, maybe they can be a bit biased, maybe, but they're really really excited because they are, Chenzo. He's an amazing player. He played pro in Splitgate. He's like almost pro in Quake and almost pro level in Quake. And
Yep.
he um he said, when this game comes out, it's going to be the best game ever, you know.
I don't doubt, like I don't doubt that this game actually has
Yeah, it already
potential to be
feels amazing.
to be a great game. It was great at its its first version. So I think it can be even better now with this second version.
Mhm.
Um to be honest, I think that touches up on most of what I wanted to talk about. If you have anything else, feel free.
I don't think we ever got around to aim assist, actually,
We didn't
which
we
was a big
didn't
one.
let's
Yeah,
get into it now. I think
I think
either
I
we
had an
skipped it or
extra
forgot.
thing to talk about, like
Go for
smart
it.
portals or something. Um,
But go for it. The Amos's debate, which was big, which is huge, which is important as
yeah,
well.
yeah, that
Uh,
was. Oh, sorry.
no, yeah, I was about to say that's even the main vid, which I watched on your channel, which I recommended other people going to watch it. Um, which was very interesting. I mean, get on it. I want to know your take.
Um, well, different people have different interests in what they want the game to look like at, whatever, like at any given skill level, right? Like 1047 games, they want viability for both inputs,
Yep.
which means that they have to give controllers some help. Naturally, just the compute, like, because joysticks are just not very good for aiming without it. And the sorry, I need to formulate my thoughts a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Uh,
Take a second, think
uh,
about it.
and of course, the other thing is, in order to have a successful game, you need to appeal to the casual player base, right?
Yeah.
And most of the casual player base is on console, and most of an overwhelming majority of the console player base plays on controller. So if you want to, appeal to them, you need to make controller viable at a low skill level. Which usually, to make controller viable at a low skill level, you're going to make it's going to be very strong at a high skill level. And I think 1047 have actually done a really great job with that. Personally, where I see, like, where what I value is the game being as exciting and fun as possible, and as exciting as possible at the top level, specifically because I love esports. I love watching esports. I love playing them. So, and for me, keyboard and mouse is more fun to play, and it's more exciting to watch. Uh, so because of that, personally, I think it would be really cool if the pro scene was all keyboard and mouse. That I would probably prefer that, but I know that that's not what 1047 is looking for. So I try to, um, I want to center the discussion around what can we do to both make, have that input balance at the top level, and make it exciting,
Mhm.
and make it as the least amount frustrating as possible to play against a controller player, because when you know that they have like when they have computer assistance, that can get really frustrating to play, especially as someone who doesn't have that as a keyboard and mouse player. Because you just feel like I put so much time into like training my aim and stuff, and there's definitely a difference between your casual controller player and your like controller pro in terms of aim, but it just takes so much more effort to aim on keyboard and mouse. So
Definitely.
it takes a lot more energy. So the so how do we balance all of those desires? And the thing is that controller players, like the high level controller players, um high amateur and up,
Yep.
I would say, like in the Godpug server. I don't know if you're in there, but
I think
that's
I
that's where
was. I think.
that's where Splitgate 1 pugs are happening for right now. Um once Splitgate 2 comes out, the pugs are moving to the Splitgate pugs Discord server, which I think you are in.
Yep.
Um but um a lot of these like controller players who are like high amateur and up, they want to see they want aim assist to be reduced as well, because it gives them more opportunity to outskill other controller players. When the ball's more in their court than the computer's, because the computer will always do its part of the job perfectly, or exactly how it was programmed. I mean, um, when the computer's doing less of it, that means that they have more of an opportunity. That means that baseline is lowered. So, um, having higher skill with a joystick becomes more important, becomes more relevant, I guess I should say. And so that gives controller players the opportunity to outplay each other more. And I think that like outplaying and stuff like that, that's the most important thing in esports, because if it was all formulaic, if it was all predictable, and you could calculate, okay, both teams will do an exactly perfect strategy, then it would be pretty boring, and we'd already know the winner before it started. So maximizing the exact opposite of that, I think is great. Other than RNG, of course, which does make it less deterministic, but also it's not in the player's control anyway.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of touch upon or just back up on the fact that 1047, obviously you said, is not looking to put the pro scene in all keyboard settings, which I
Also,
think
not all controller.
also not on controller. Yeah.
Yeah, they want both. They want both.
Yeah. Which I think is great, because I know COD has that issue where it's an all controller setting for the pro level, and I think that's in a way pretty boring, because the game is you're able to play on those two inputs. So the fact that you can't see top performers of both inputs in the same lobbies, at least in regards to pro play, I think makes it a little bit, not necessarily boring as a fact, but more in the fact that it doesn't feel like you're really at the top of the top, because you're like, okay, well, this guy, he's on a different input, but he's insane at the game, and he's not, he's just not there. And I'm pretty sure certain players, whether it's controller players in keyboard games or keyboard players in controller games, where they're locked, could compete at that level, but they're just locked out. So I like
Yeah.
the open mindset that they have for in terms of competing, the aim assist
Mhm.
definitely has some tweaks that it could receive to make it
Yeah. For
more
or
fair.
mhm.
I think I commented under that video, but I talked about the implementation of gyro,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
could be interesting. Obviously, gyro is kind of a whole other debate, and is very very complicated. I guess not much of just the implementation, but controller players right now can't play with gyro just day one. You can't just switch to gyro and be good on gyro. You're gonna have to learn gyro. So
Yeah.
it's like relearning an input.
I think here's I had a comment about this. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I I replied to someone else's comment on my video about this, and I just want to like go over the highlights about what I think about gyro aim. And I think the first thing is it has a lot of potential, and I would like to see, kind of a move toward that, just like in as opposed to aim assist.
Yep.
But if it's just like dropped into the game and nothing else has changed about controller. First of all, in Splitgate 2, I think aim assist already needs to go down um, because of just like some of the differences in gameplay. I think it needs to be weaker than it was in Splitgate 1 just to get the same level of balance. But the thing about uh, gyro aim is if you don't have some kind of system to change aim assist if you're on gyro, then like what's stopping a player from turning on gyro aim and keeping aim assist on at the same strength, right? You need to have
Oh
something like that
yeah.
because that would be ridiculously
No,
overpowered.
that would be insanely overpowered. Gyro plus
Yeah.
aim assist is crazy. No, uh,
Yeah.
gyro definitely, and pretty much all games, honestly, gyro is when you have gyro on, you have aim assist off. There's not I don't even think there's much games where you have even a little bit of aim assist. It just turns it off
Hmm.
completely because
Okay.
realistically, it replaces the gyro would replace the need for aim assist.
Yeah, that's great. The problem is, the problem then becomes all like controller joystick with aim assist is already more accurate than already gets higher accuracy at the highest level than keyboard and mouse. Like the controller players in Splitgate 1, the
Yeah.
controller pros all had higher accuracy stats than the KBM pros. So in that case, is first off, is gyro as strong as like gyro aiming as
No,
strong
so
on its own as mouse aiming? And if uh, if so, then it might be able to compete. But in that case, why not just use a mouse for the turning speed? And also, like I know that like usually if you do play gyro, you turn your sensitivity like to the max so that you can use your joystick. Like you turn your joystick sensitivity to the max so that you use your joystick for just the really wide movements. But like why would like it seems like in that case, first of all, you could just use regular joystick aiming unless that's like no longer allowed. Like maybe at the pro level they say, oh, you can use controller gyro, but you can't use controller joystick only, and that means that you have to have no aim assist. But in that case, it's just objectively weaker than keyboard and mouse, or it is, or you see a scenario where controller, it's both are an option, and everybody just sticks like at the pro level, they just stick to controller joystick because they get aim assist and they get higher accuracy stats than even keyboard and mouse players who've spent 1,500 hours in Kovacs, right?
I mean that's definitely interesting and gyro obviously I made a lot of research sorry on gyro specifically because I found it very interesting and top or at least uh very skilled gyro players that essentially play with whatever game they're playing with no aim assist and gyro on have somewhat of a similar accuracy level to someone that would play keyboard. And then in this case, the way it works is the same as keyboard works, right? If you just hopped on keyboard the first game, you're most likely not going to hit a lot of shots. If you have 1500 of hours in Kovacs on keyboard, well, you're going to be probably a demon in terms of aiming, and it kind of works the same. Gyro players, or at least top gyro players, use things like Kovacs as well and actually train their aim. And some of them that have 500 or 1,000 hours in gyro controller aim training settings, they have really really good aim, right? And if you have 1,500, then you have even more. So it always depends on the skill player of the actual player. The problem with gyro, the main problem is actually the controller player base doesn't like gyro because
Yeah, that's what I figured.
it's gonna force them to actually, put time into becoming better. And aim assist can't obviously carry um a player like it is right now. And this is not a problem only in Splitgate. It's a problem in a lot of games, but definitely will affect Splitgate as well. I think for a pro level, I think that either aim assist has to be at a point where whenever you're playing in a competitive game mode, your aim assist is automatically maybe halved, and so you can play with a full aim assist for the standard game modes for casual players essentially, so that they can have their fun, and you have the actual competitive settings of the game where aim assist is, let's say, halved. This is obviously just kind of a random number ish to throw around, but I think that having that type of system again can just appease both communities. Everyone can kind of be happy. People that want to go pro, well, you're gonna have to work to go pro because that's how it works. Or just be competitive at the game, and people that just want to have fun and not necessarily need to worry about putting thousands of hours just to be decent at the game can play without those issues.
Yeah, I think that's something that I'd like to see. One thing that I recently proposed in the Splitgate Discord was I asked them. I haven't seen any response from the community team or anything, but I asked them if they could add custom game features. These would have to be visible to the entire lobby, of course. But if they could add custom game features where okay, to first add some background.
Yep.
Back during 2022, during the Pro Series, pros actually took time away from regular practice to experiment with changing the respawn settings. They changed it to 7-second respawn instead of 8. And what we saw was that, they really liked it, and, they kept practicing like that, and they told 1047 about it, and so they changed the settings in both ranked and tournaments for that. So I think if we, if you gave them something similar with changing aim assist specifically for competitive, I think that could yield some really interesting results. And, maybe 1047 could learn from that and see, okay, what can we do? And they could have the data. They wouldn't have to experiment in, they wouldn't have to test it themselves. The pro players could get all the data for them, and then they could just say, this is what we found to work best. Take that. Obviously we're the top level, so we're not the best players, or no, they are the best players. So this, but if you apply this to ranked, it will affect players who aren't just at the absolute best, but it gives them the data they need, and they can make balance changes based on that. They could make any type of balance change, and maybe it would be more, this kind of custom game setting would be you could change the maximum aim assist. So anybody whose aim assist is in their own personal settings set above that would just get it set to the custom game maximum setting, and would be playing on that during the custom game. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could even add more details to it. You could add rotational versus sensitivity slowing aim assist, because there's the aim assist that actually guides you, and then there's the aim assist that just slows you down when you're over your target. You
Yep.
could separate those. Um, you could let, maybe they want to try turning off rotational aim assist entirely, because that's the one that kind of really can get people fired up. It's like,
Yeah.
why is the joystick, why is my camera actively moving when I'm not touching the joystick? Like it's actively moving for me. And like actively aiming for me rather than just like uh slowing, like, helping me, giving me more time to like uh be over, like while I'm over my target, where I have an opportunity to, fire, like to press the trigger. Like it's literally, it's moving the, the computer is moving the crosshair for me.
Yep.
So that's something. I doubt that, I when I mentioned this, like they said that probably disabling rotational aim assist entirely wouldn't be balanced. I mean, this was in the like competitive community. I asked other players about this, and they said that. But just let them go wild. Like give them those options and let them go wild, and they can just and they can figure out what works best, and give recommendations, and they can compile all the data, because there's a lot of like the top level players like are surprisingly good with that. Like Zax Max,
Yep.
uh, um, he did some sort of like crazy like data science stuff to talk about like strategy with portaling. Like you could do some similar stuff with that. K Jules like literally went through replays and counted every single bullet
Yep.
that was fired, to like figure out the true accuracy of like, how accurate are these players when there's actually a target on their screen. Um, so like, and with specific weapons, so give them, if you give them a few more tools, they could come up with some incredible results.
And I I want to not because I want people, I truly want people to go and check your video so they can get that extra information on it that you kind of put there. um I really encourage everybody to go and check that, because obviously everything we say, whether it's here or on forums or on Reddit or on anything, right, is all propositions. And as we said in the beginning, 1047 is not just, I guess, a random, company that will just say, okay, we want our money and that's it. And they actually care about the game that they're making. So they care about
Good
the
long
community.
term.
Yeah.
They make good long term decisions by wanting like prioritizing our satisfaction, right? And
Yeah.
in the long run, that makes them more money.
Yeah, no, in the long run, that's definitely a win, right? And that means that they're actually going to listen and at least take into account the things that we're proposing. So I definitely encourage not only you, but anyone else that would be watching this to, if you have an idea, just go ahead and actually just go in the Discord, uh, put it there, put it in the community, just tweet it out, those kind of things, especially since it's kind of hot topics, they actually get a lot of answers from diverse people, whether it's random people or just, casual players wanting to say that they like it and that's that, or community members saying that it's too strong, or devs saying that we're working on it and this is a good idea, maybe we might implement this.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just
sorry. Did you see how quickly they nerfed the stim shot like in during the playtest? Like it was like a few days through the 5-day playtest, they'd already heard enough like people saying that like the arrow's self heal, the stim shot was too powerful, and they changed it halfway through the playtest, and then they, at that same point they said they all had already heard enough, and they said, okay, we hear you that you don't like the shared hot zone progression. We're going to change it. And the game's literally been had literally been available like to a limited number of players for
Yeah,
3 days.
yeah. No,
And they were already like, okay, we already
it's a
we already
playtest.
see what we do. Yeah, and and like they said, like they were doing a lot of. They introduced a lot of wacky ideas to see which ones would stick and which ones didn't fit too well. And because they're not even trying to market the game at that point, they're just trying to, their whole, like approach was they literally did all that just to try to make the game as good as possible. They're not even worried about marketing yet, really. I'm sure they've got a plan in the works, but they're going to market the game later. This is just to make sure the game is good.
Make it good.
The first thing, before anything else, you got to make a good product.
Yep, make a product good, and then you'll get the customers later. That's not a problem. If the product is good, people themselves will literally just go ahead and be like, yo, this is the best game out. Come and play it, and they'll get their friends on it. They'll get their friends on it, and then that's just that. And when people are gonna see the marketing afterwards and know that, oh, this game is good, and they see it, they're like, oh, you know what? I've been seeing a lot about this game. I'm going to try it, and they're actually gonna play it and enjoy it. So it's a win-win for the community, win for them. Everybody's happy in these cases, right? But with companies have stopped. Companies as a whole in the shooting genre, especially, companies have stopped being like that, and they prefer upfront money. And our game is gonna survive. Trust me, bro. And
I mean, the world is not the Wolf of Wall Street, right? Like you can't just talk in people's ears like over and over and over, and then eventually they'll be like, fine, I guess. If you're talking this much about it, you have to be right and your game is good. Like, no, your game actually has to be good.
Yep. I feel like that covers most, if not all, of the topics now that we've actually went over aim assist. And I encourage anyone to make their opinion on it. Put it in the comments. Tweet about it at me in it if you want. Or just DM me the tweets. I really enjoy this conversation, and I like having it. I like hearing the different point of views. I like hearing the different ideas, because everybody has their own little idea, and a lot of people just, kind of brush it off as like, oh, it doesn't matter. But if you pitch it to the right people, those ideas can come to light. You literally just need to like put it out there, and then one person that actually has power to make a change sees it, and they might just do it. So I want to before I thank everybody for watching this, I want to, all of your socials, are they all under Warp Sonic or
Warp Sonic is for YouTube and X, Twitter. It's Warp Sonic. My Twitch is Warp Sonic SG. I think those are
the main ones. Do you have like TikTok,
those are the main
Instagram,
ones,
or anything else?
No, I don't have or I do have a TikTok, but like my parents don't want me like using it, even though like I don't want to scroll TikTok. I just want to make content. I just want to get engagement. But still, like I don't have, like, it's, the account is there, but
fair enough.
I'm not doing anything with it.
Well, based on what you have, I'll put those on screen anyways. I encourage anyone obviously to just go ahead, give him a follow, subscribe, watch the streams, and I'm just hyped for the Splitgate release, man. I don't know if you have any last words, but I'm just hyped for the Splitgate release. I hope this game does great. I hope I can, in the future, right? Let's say, a year or two from now, I can say that this was the greatest prediction we had. Was that Splitgate was going to blow up, and Splitgate was going to do well, and it was going to nurture an actual good and engaged community.
Yeah. It'll blow up over time.
Over time, yeah.
Yeah. Like I think the beginning will be nothing to scoff at, but I think it's only going to go up.
It's only going to go up. It's not the Wolf of Wall Street, but Splitgate is only going up. Thank you very much for accepting to be on the podcast. It was really fun
Oh, my
having you.
pleasure.
And to anyone that is watching as well, I'm back. I'm truly back. So more episodes are coming out. That's it. I want to thank you once again, and peace out, everybody.